today, especially coming back from 4-1 to almost pushing it to a draw.
Yeah.
Not that would have been any good, but is that quite useful for next weekend?
It really is, for the simple fact it's like a dress rehearsal of not being able to hear the coaches, to look at scenario planning. Look, I think times reality, I think we've given Arsenal a bit of the game today. You know, we've made mistakes and these are things that you'd rather get out before a final and we can focus forwards. But there's so much great learning. There's an 11 minutes of madness second half. And I've been in this position before with a young team at Manchester United where we didn't manage momentum and then we learnt about managing momentum. This game was all about, as soon as Arsenal go 2-up, and I would be interested to see people's opinion on whether it's a foul on Celine before the penalty. I think it's a penalty to Arsenal, of course. But I think there's a foul there. But then once they get that momentum and score the goal, then as a team you have to breathe. And you have to manage the time and manage it. And it's just something I have to keep reminding of our players, because next week will be a different event. The season's done now, and now it's a one-off event which we're used to, and so I've got to get all of those little game nuances in. Whereas I think what you'd probably say, and I'd hope you'd agree, is that the experience that Arsenal and Chelsea have is that it's already in the players. I don't think you have to do much, you just remind them. Whereas ours, we got it, but we have to kind of keep reminding young players to manage that momentum.
Can you tell me a bit about, you had to shuffle the defence again, you shuffled them at half time, and obviously you've had to shuffle them because of Jay Riviere being out.
Yeah.
So can you tell me did you get any idea of how you might set up next weekend?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously Aoife was out as well through suspension from the last game. So, you know, we had two right backs out, so we adapted shape, and you'll probably appreciate that we adapted shape because we'd seen that Arsenal struggle when they play against the last two teams have played a 5. And they struggle because they want to underlap and pull your centre-halves out to then cross. So I felt we managed that. What we didn't manage well enough in this game was the back space, so that they'd come out and we should have stayed aggressive. But I think it's given me ideas. I think the Chelsea game will be different, so we'll look at it differently. But yeah, we will already be preset in our mind about how we can. What it also does, it gives us experience in a big game of playing different shape. So we can adapt to that too, and if we need to.
And the last quick one from me was, Valen obviously made this error where she sort of came out to catch but almost punched and whatever, but it felt like something that's like so uncharacteristic of her across the whole season. I don't know, because presumably she's kicking herself now, I don't know.
I mean, she's like that as a character. She kicks herself if she makes a worldly save and hasn't gone perfect. So yeah, she'll be disappointed, but I think she's been incredible this season. So it's going to happen at some point. To limit those, every top goalkeeper makes some mistakes, but for me it's about how you react to them, and I think she'll react absolutely perfectly. She's a big time goalkeeper, so she'll react perfectly. We'll assess it, we'll move forwards and be ready for the final next week.
Good luck in the final.
Thank you very much. Hello, mate.
Just want to ask about how you assess the midfield performance today, because it felt like when Lisa Nelson came on, it offered more of a defensive outlet.
Yeah.
It kind of changed the tide. How did you just see that performance in the midfield and the improvement?
It's a really good question. It was really hard because we felt at half time, and obviously Tooney comes out the game, but we felt at half time that we had loads more time with the ball. We could easily manipulate Arsenal. We just need to be calmer and clearer with the decision making. So we went with the technical midfield, and actually we controlled spaces pretty well. Second half, because we're now chasing the game a little bit in our heads, we left those spaces. And so I felt that by gaining momentum, there's ways in football. You can go ultra aggressive, but then you lose structure and shape. And when you lose structure and shape, it only takes individuals to make moments. When I put Lisa in, it was just to have more structure, and it wasn't. And I want to be clear on this: it wasn't anything to do with how Tooney was playing. I thought she was doing really well. I thought Grace could take the physical duel of the nature of the game better, and obviously Hinnie with the link between the back line, just to make sure we have that balance. So I felt they did great in moments. I really do. We asked them this week to play a different system. They took it under their control, and there were more moments. But if we don't feed the ball to Tooney and Grace well enough, which I felt we could have done better first half, you're not going to get the best out of them. So it was about controlling space better second half with the physicality, and then defend better, you attack better. There's no doubt about it.
And you talked there about having to adapt the system, Mark. Obviously it's 4-1 at one stage, you come back 4-3. It feels like this time last season, that mentality maybe wasn't there. I guess just reflecting on the whole season, it's a young group, they look stronger mentally. What have you seen the improvements? Where have you seen them? Can you reflect on that?
I just reflected actually after the game, and I thought that if this was this team last year, I think we'd have gone down 6. I really do. I feel that the group, there's a decision for me to make as a coach whether we adapt shape, because clearly, but then you look at the goals and then they're not really structurally adaptations. If we'd have dropped off our pressure against us and let Leah step in, and we'd have just been defending the back six anyway. So we decided to give the team the opportunity to be really aggressive and still go for the game. I think, Gabby had a niggle in the warm-up, so I couldn't bring her in. So I would have brought Gabby into this game as well to give us that adaptation, but I couldn't. And so from that perspective, I think, it was right for us to stay aggressive. It's a game where you got to try and win anyway, and that's the difference with us. I just think we're a different beast this year, and it's only going to serve us for future success. And we've got to recruit well. We have to recruit well, because I need, the people I'm bringing in are fantastic, but I've still got 2 academy prospects on the bench. Jade's not there, Aoife's not there, and all of a sudden you feel that depth kind of issue that I'm sure Man City have felt this year, for example. We understand the situation, and that's where I would go. I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of this season as a whole, and now let's go out in the shootout in the final next weekend. Thank you, mate.
Okay.
Hello, mate.
Does it change anything that you finish third rather than second, and therefore next season starts a little bit earlier, or is that kind of too far in the future?
Yeah, it's probably too far in the future, but you are right. It will obviously affect it. Hopefully we can do our work in the transfer market earlier as well, so that you get them really set up. When you go later now, because we'll be coming back earlier, I'm sure it can have an effect, but we need the depth, to go through the season then, if we come back a little bit earlier. What I've always think I am good at is finding little pockets of rest for the players. So it shouldn't really affect that much. It's more the Euros players, right? And when they come back and how we manage them, just means you've got to manage more, I think. There's more unknowns. So it would have been ideal to come back a little bit later, but I'd rather be in Champions League than in qualification than not be in Champions League qualification. This fly's doing my head in. It's like Arsenal for the 4th guy who's doing my head in. Anyone else? Hello.
Hey, Mark. I just wanted to ask sort of a bigger picture thing, because you've used the fewest players in the WSL this season. You've had the 2nd youngest average age, and you obviously had a big change over the summer. You lost your main goalkeeper and your captain. Is 3rd place something you'd taken at the start of the season, or do you think you were expected to do better, worse?
No. Look, the reality is at Manchester United, you should always have a lofty ambition. We've got an ambitious, I think everyone knows, our ambition is to win the league by 2028. You know how hard that's going to be, right? But if you don't set that, you never have that fighting spirit to do it. I'd rather overachieve. Like that's what I think we're capable of doing. Look, if you said to me at the start of the year, look, you're gonna play really well, you're gonna have lots of growth in the season, and you're gonna finish 3rd, and an FA Cup final again, I'd have taken that, if I'm being really honest. But that doesn't mean I'm defeatist on not trying to win the league. I want to be clear on that. My ambition as a human is to drive this team, even if it exhausts me, to try and win a title. As much as you might all be sitting there going, okay, Chelsea ain't lost a game. I totally understand that. I'm not crazy. But if I don't have that, I don't get up every day and drive my players to achieving what we can achieve. So I think all in all, I'll be really pleased. But we've got this one big event left, and I'm going to make sure that we're fully engaged and ready for that. Thank you.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else? No?